this a little bit in the past. We'll go and do it again here. So find out what's going on with the Citadel and kind of your thoughts, I know, on ETSU and how well they've been playing here lately. And I did read your story earlier today, so we'll go from there. And thanks for being on the show.
No problem.
Okay, there we go. And what else do I have?
Oh. Game day ready at your local CVS pharmacy.
Do you know the RPI of the Citadel?
And save big. This week only.
I don't know what it is exactly. It's not good.
Yeah, I didn't think it was real good. I had a few RPI ratings. I got ETSU at 58 and Gonzaga is 59. Or excuse me, Gonzaga is 57. I'm sorry. ETSU is 58 and Gonzaga is 57. So my bad on that. But yeah. But I thought that to be very, very interesting right there. So.
It is interesting.
Yes.
You wonder if they don't win the tournament, if they might have a shot.
That's one of my questions that I'll give you here. So here we go. I've said it before and I said it again. And in fact, I got the story I told you about college basketball scheduling and the changes that will be occurring. Well, with more conference games and able to open up on a weekday in the future, from the Charleston Post and Courier. It really is a good newspaper and a great place to read about college athletics, not just the Southern Conference with the Citadel, and Jeff Hartsell does a very fine job with that, but also I find the Post and Courier in their coverage of South Carolina athletics oftentimes has a different angle, a thought-provoking angle that, say, the state might not have. That's the newspaper in Columbia. Basically, the Post and Courier covers the SEC real well as well. So it's a great delight to talk to you here now, Jeff Hartsell. Thanks for joining us here on Tri-City Sports Now. And I've buttered you up a little bit, but one team that maybe deserves a little buttering up because they've won 12 in a row, it's the third longest winning streak in all of college basketball, is ETSU. So from an outsider's standpoint, somebody who's going to cover tonight's game, what are your impressions of the first place East Tennessee State Buccaneers, who come in with a record of 18-4 against the 7-13 Citadel Bulldogs?
Well, I'll tell you, I'm really impressed, and I'm looking forward to seeing them play for the first time. This is the first meeting between the teams this season, so I'm eager to see what Steve Forbes has been able to do. You know, it's pretty amazing. He had 9 newcomers on this team this year, and only one returning starter. And here they are with 18 wins and undefeated in the Southern Conference. So I know Duger Balcom is really impressed with the way Steve has got these guys to buy in to his system and are really playing hard and playing good defense. So, yeah, I'm eager to see this team in action.
Jermaine Long may be the best defensive player in the Southern Conference. In fact, I'll go out and say, in my opinion, he is. He held Francis Alonso to just 10 points in an earlier meeting. Alonso, the great scorer for UNCG. And I do want to talk about scorers, though, because the Citadel under Balcom, as you said, they've been, I think they call it loot and shoot. And it's a modern, yes, it's a modern style of play that teams that maybe have a little bit less talent, they can use this. And I know of one small high school, in fact, that does this, and it works very successful for them, where, you know, they're always shooting. They try to shoot the ball, I think, within 7 seconds, preferably from 3. And so if Citadel doesn't win, at least they will control the tempo. And if you can control the tempo, then your chances of victory are greater. However, I'm looking at some of the recent scores, and it used to be the Citadel would play a lot of computer games. Well, you just beat Mercer. I should say the Bulldogs just beat Mercer. 76-74, average basketball score. Is it still that fast-paced offense that Citadel is playing?
It still is, yeah. Duger wants them to play as fast as they can. But sometimes the other team does a great job of controlling the tempo, and UNC Greensboro did that to the Citadel the other night, did a great job of controlling tempo and not allowing them to run, and Mercer kind of played the same way, very patient on offense. They try to keep the game down, but the Citadel was able to shoot the ball around within 10 or so in the first half, they usually play better in the second half. So that'll be a big question tonight. Can they hang within 10 or so of ETSU at halftime?
Well, I will say that Mercer, a team that picked to win the Southern Conference by many, as a matter of fact, although struggling now with a losing record, I thought that the Citadel this year had the chance to have a winning record, to be honest with you. Because of the style of play, because, Coach Balcom, formerly at Tusculum, had won 20 games in the Big South at VMI in the past, and it seemed like maybe it would all come together. But I know that Preston Parks, freshman of the year in the SoCon last year, left the team early on. Is that why? Is it the loss of Parks is why we're not having these computer games? A computer game is a game that's 100 to 100. I mean, both teams score at least 100 points. Yeah.
They've had some of those. They beat Chattanooga 110 to 101 in overtime, and the other team has scored 100 points a few times against the Citadel. But yeah, losing Preston Parks really hurt. He left the team / was dismissed after 6 games. And he was really the best scorer on the team, if not the best player. And he is now at Tennessee Martin, as a matter of fact, waiting. He'll be eligible second semester next year. So, yeah, that really hurt, to lose your top scorer on any team would hurt. So they've been trying to fill that void, and it's been a rough go of it. Zayn Najdawi, the 6'7" senior, has really come on of late and is playing really well. And Matt Frierson, also a junior, is the Citadel's top 3-point shooter. And they've been trying to find some guys to contribute scoring-wise behind those two. And it happened Saturday at Mercer with some other guys stepping up. And they're really going to need that against ETSU.
Well, we're talking to Jeff Hartsell of the Post-Courier down in Charleston. Why is this game starting at 6 o'clock? Why not a traditional 7 o'clock start?
That's Cougar's preferred time. I'm not sure what the reasoning is, but when he came in, he changed the home games to 6 o'clock. It might be an effort to get a few more cadets out before they have to go to study hall or something like that. It hasn't worked real well. Attendance is not great at the Citadel this year, but maybe a few more fans will come out to see a great team like ETSU tonight.
Well, I tell you what, Jeff Hartsell, that's an interesting point to the 6 p.m. I remember last year's game, and it did seem to be empty, although it was during the Christmas break down there in Charleston. And by the way, good insight right there. Really appreciate you telling us that Preston Parks is now a Skyhawk at Tennessee Martin. I know that he was prohibited from transferring to a Southern Conference or a Big South school. I found it quite interesting with Big South. But anyway, you mentioned Duggar Balcom, and fans around here might be familiar with him. He used to be the coach at Tusculum. Big story a couple of years ago written about him on ViceSports.com. National attention going to the Citadel. Used to be a North Carolina highway patrolman. Didn't get into coaching until 35. Started helping out Bob McKillop at Davidson after a stint in high school, if memory serves. But he's only won 8 games at the Citadel in conference, and that includes the victory against Mercer this past weekend. Is he on any hot seat?
I don't think he's on a hot seat yet. He's got a 5-year contract, and the Citadel almost always honors contracts and doesn't fire a coach before the contract is up. He has no seniors on the team this year, so it's still a very young team. 3 juniors, 6 sophomores, 5 sophomores after losing Preston, and the rest freshmen. So I think he's got another year to kind of show that his system can work at the Citadel the way it did at VMI. He won 20 games at VMI twice, I think, in 10 years. If he could do that at the Citadel, he'd be a hero and be competitive in the other seasons. But it hasn't happened yet for him at the Citadel. And I wonder sometimes if the game of college basketball has changed enough in the last 10 years that the statistical advantage that his system might bring is not really there anymore. Teams shoot the three-pointer very well.
Mm-hmm.
All teams pretty much now, and I don't know if that was the case 10 years ago, that the VMI sort of took advantage of that inefficiency 10 years ago with their system. I'm not sure if that's still there. But,
And, you know, the Running Roos 10 years ago under Bocom beat Kentucky in a memorable upset in 2008. The VMI Keydets were a nationally ranked program. They mainly lost for most of their program, but they were nationally ranked in the 70s, and there was some thought when Bocom went there, well, why are you going from one military academy to another? And he said, well, I think the facilities are a little bit better at the Citadel. I actually think you can, now that both teams are in the Southern Conference, I think there's more potential to win at the Citadel than VMI. Very interesting. But do you agree with that? I guess my question is, the Citadel is one of 4 teams historically that's never made the NCAAs. Army, St. Francis of Brooklyn, William and Mary, the other 3. Northwestern made it last year, so they're off the hook now. But, VMI has had some success being a military academy. Navy has had some success. That's where former ETSU head coach Ed DeChillis is now coaching. But the Citadel, even with Norm Sloan, never an NCAA berth. Why is that?
Well, that's a good question. I think if the Citadel had David Robinson, they might have.
I agree. I agree.
But yeah, it's tough at the Citadel. It's tough at VMI. VMI has made the tournament. You're right. They've had their glory years. The Citadel's only won 20 games twice in its history.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's tough there. I do agree with Duggar. I think it's easier to recruit to Charleston than it is to Lexington, Virginia. But for whatever reason, it just hasn't happened for the Citadel. The Southern Conference, historically, Jerry West played in this league.
Sure.
So it's been tough historically. Now it's a mid-major, but it's still been tough for the Citadel to break through and win 3 or 4 games in March and make that move. Duggar said when he got here that he thought he could do it. I don't know if he still thinks that after 2+ seasons. But, next year was always going to be the year when he had the 3 seniors and 6 juniors. And so I still, I thought maybe they might put it together this season and be more competitive than they have been. But we're only halfway through the conference race. So we'll see how it goes. They're a game or 2 out of 6th place. Top 6 teams get the bye and for the first round in the tournament. So we'll see if they can get there. This is a big week for the Citadel. They got ETSU tonight and Wofford on Thursday and Furman on Saturday. 3 of the best teams in the league at home. If they can steal 1 or 2, they'll be feeling good.
And they seem to be, coming in, maybe playing their best ball, although it is a 7-13 team against an 18-4 team in ETSU, coming off that victory against a respectable Mercer team, which also played ETSU competitively at Freedom Hall last week. Hey, I only have a minute left, so I want to ask you, now that Parks is gone, who is the go-to guy? I know there were 4 guys who had more than a dozen points against Mercer, but who's the go-to guy now to score for the Citadel?
Well, there's no doubt there's Zane Stawi, the 6'7" junior, who he passes as the Citadel's version of a center, I guess you would say. But he has really come on in league plays, averaging about 20 points a game in league play, shooting 69% from the field. So he's the go-to guy, and he'll have a tough time against Peter Dirk and some of the guys that ETSU has inside. And then Mr. Outside, he's Mr. Inside, and Mr. Outside is Matt Frierson, 6'3" junior, who leads the SoCon in field 3-pointers made per game. Not that's in percentage.
And Frierson did lead the Bulldogs in scoring against Mercer. Jeff, gotta go. Jeff Hartsell, Post-Courier, thanks for joining us.
All right, my pleasure.
Oh, my pleasure too. Here, do you have? You see any chance of a victory by any chance for the Citadel?
I don't. I've heard ETSU has banged up. You know who's hurt?
They had a couple of guys out, but they're both back now. Bo Hodges had a knee injury, but he played the last week, or he played the last game. So, unless there's somebody else, and I mean that I'm not remembering from watching the game or the let me go through the Joe Avento story real fast. I don't remember seeing anything. Coming out
I know the kid from was it Florida?
Oh yeah, Rodriguez isn't in the lineup. But he's missed the whole year.
Right.
So yeah, and for